Welcome to today's lesson, Dividing Fractions by Fractions. Today we're going to discuss two different strategies that you can use to divide fractions. Let's go ahead and get started. We are going to begin today by practicing the word problem on the screen. Sam has a rope that is 3/4 of a yard long. He cuts the rope into 1/8 of a yard pieces. How many pieces of rope will he have? Well, our first step is to write out this equation. We have 3/4 of a yard of rope that we're going to be dividing equally into 1/8 of a yard pieces. Now, as you can see, we have our rope on the screen, so we're going to start by shading in 3/4 of this rope. So we have 1/4, 2/4, 3/4 of the rope shaded in. So our next step is to find out how many groups of 1/8 we can fit into our 3/4 that we have shaded in. So I'm now going to break our whole into eighths, and we're going to see how many times we can shade in 1/8 in our 3/4 that we already have shaded in. So we can have 1/8 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 whole times. That means that 3/4 divided into groups of 1/8 equals 6 whole groups. Now that we've had a chance to see the visual of 3/4 divided by 1/8, let's practice using the algorithm. Our first step is to rewrite 3/4. So I'm going to rewrite 3/4 right below, and then we are going to find the inverse of division. Inverse is another word for opposite, so the opposite of division is multiplication. Since we're doing the opposite of division, that means we need to do the opposite of 1/8, which means we need to find the reciprocal. The reciprocal of a fraction takes the denominator and changes it to your numerator, and moves your numerator down to your denominator. And now we're ready to multiply across. 3 times 8 equals 24, and 4 times 1 equals 4. Now remember, you can also simplify this problem even further, and we can represent 24/4 as 6 wholes. So if Sam has a rope that's 3/4 of a yard long, and he cuts the rope into 1/8 of a yard pieces, he will have 6 pieces of rope. Let's try another word problem together. Aiden is seeding half of a soccer field. Each bag of seed covers 1/6 of the field. How many bags of seed will Aiden need? Let's start by writing out our problem. We have 1/2 of a soccer field, and each bag of seed covers 1/6 of the field. So let's go ahead and let's shade in the 1/2 of the field that Aiden still needs to seed. So we're going to shade in 1/2 of the field. Now we need to find out how many groups of 1/6 we can fit into that half of a field. So let's go ahead and divide our field into 6ths. Now remember, each bag of seed can cover 1/6 of a field. So let's count how many bags we will need for half of the soccer field. We will need 1 bag, 2 bags, 3 whole bags of seed if we want to cover half of the soccer field. So we use the area model to be able to solve this problem, but let's check our work using the flip and multiply strategy. We are going to start by rewriting 1/2. Our next step is to find the inverse of division, which we know is multiplication. Our second step is to find the reciprocal of our second fraction. So we are going to flip 1/6 over to be 6 wholes. And our final step is to multiply across. 1 times 6 equals 6, and 2 times 1 equals 2. And if I simplify this further, I can see that this also has the same value as my 3 whole bags that we found above. Let's go ahead and try another practice problem together. Our first step when dividing 1/7 divided by 3/5 is to rewrite 1/7. Our second step is to find the inverse of division, which is multiplication. Our third step is to find the reciprocal of 3/5, which means we have to flip our fraction. And our final step is to multiply across. Now, it's important to remember that you always want to check to see if you can simplify this fraction if necessary. Let's try another problem together. 2/4 divided by 7/9. Our first step is to rewrite our first fraction. Our second step is to find the inverse of division. And our third step is to find the reciprocal of our second fraction. But wait! Let's take a minute to review our vocabulary of inverse and reciprocal. Inverse means opposite, so the opposite of division will be multiplication. The reciprocal of a fraction is the fraction flipped. So 7/9 has a reciprocal of 9/7. All right, I think we're ready to go ahead and multiply. 2 times 9 equals 18. 4 times 7 equals 28. And it's important that we always remember to simplify as best as we can. 18 divided by 2 equals 9, and 28 divided by 2 equals 14. 2/4 divided by 7/9 equals 9/14. Let's review what you've learned in today's lesson. 2/5 divided by 1/10. We have 2/5 shaded in our fraction bar, and we want to see how many groups of 1/10 we can fit into our 2/5. So I'm going to divide our whole into tenths, and I'm going to count how many groups of 1/10 I can fit into 2/5. I can fit 1, 2, 3, 4 whole groups of 1/10 into 2/5. Another way to practice this strategy instead of using a model is to use the flip and multiply strategy. So you rewrite your first fraction, which is 2/5, and then you find the inverse of division, which is multiplication. Next, you find the reciprocal of 1/10, which you can do by flipping this fraction. Once you've completed that, you can multiply across. 2 times 10 equals 20, and 5 times 1 equals 5. And your last step is to simplify or convert into a mixed number if you need to. So if we divide 20 by 5 and 5 by 5, we will get 4 wholes.